as far as the feel, it feels fine. There's a lot of discourse on Twitter talking about, oh, we're back to real Street Fighter, and it's like, oh man, it's the same old song and dance again.
Here we go.
It was the same thing that happened when Street Fighter 5 came out, and I've
Yep.
seen the discourse all over again, and it's just like, what's real Street Fighter? I don't know, man. I think we've had enough games out to know that Street Fighter is not defined by one thing.
Yeah.
It's different every time, and you have to always be able to embrace new stuff. And this isn't Street Fighter 5. It isn't Street Fighter 4. It isn't Street Fighter 2.
Yep.
It isn't Third Strike. It's its own game. You can already tell right off the bat. And I like that. I like that. You don't want the same thing over and over again, because if that was the case, then why even have a new game?
To the Absolute Guard podcast.
The podcast that chronicles the past and the present of the fighting game community and bring on various perspectives from Arizona. You can find us on Twitch when we go live at twitch.tv/SpiroSeries, at youtube.youtube.com/SpiroSeries, and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Absolute Guard. For all of you watching and listening, we appreciate all of you, the likes, the subscribes, the tweets, and the retweets. This is episode 16, technically like the first episode of season 2.
Yay.
My name is Benny, also known as AK Grandmaster B, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, who's the technical mastermind of Absolute Guard. He's like the Iron Man to my Hulk. How you doing, John?
To your Hulk? I was thinking Captain America, but that works too. Based on some of our audio problems, I can totally see us hulking out. There've been some frustrating technical issues we've had recently. Been good. I think I've finally recovered from the Street Fighter 6 beta, which is the topic of our conversation today, and I'm excited to get into all that new and exciting stuff. What's new and exciting with you, Benny?
Everything's going pretty well. I mean, I actually got through my technical issues, so I'm pretty happy about that. So it looks like everything's working on my end today.
Nice.
So today we're doing things a little bit different. We have a 4-person panel going with 2 recurring guests. We figured it'd be a good way to kick off this second season, per se. So today we are joined by Lukesballs, which we could probably delve into a little bit, aka OldManRiver, also known as Jeff, and then also by Sabre, aka Scott, who is got a self-portrait up today because he's having webcam problems. How you guys doing today?
Oops, I forgot to unmute them.
We don't need to talk.
Good, man.
Technical issues.
What's up, guys?
You're good.
Good.
Nice.
Excellent. Trying to get some sleep back from this long weekend.
Yeah. Say that again.
Yeah. Of excitement.
Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah, you guys were
Post
definitely
beta
playing
life.
a lot more. A lot more than I was. I just remember looking at our group chat, or I think the first night, me and Scott work at the same place, and I was looking at the Discord, and I was like, man, John and Jeff are in the Discord audio chat, and it was like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Not responding to our messages, and we're just like, oh, they're playing the beta.
Yeah. Only 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
man.
well after 3:00 when I went to bed, and the kids get me up at 6:45, so I was suffering that day, but it was well worth it.
I'm in the same boat. I got no sleep that night. I was up until I think at 5:45 they kicked everybody off the beta to do an emergency server test or some emergency server maintenance. So then I fell back asleep, and then I woke up and it was back up. So at 9:00 or something. So I jumped back on.
Dude, that was the only time it went down, right? I don't remember it going down.
I think there was one other time, in the middle of the morning or the afternoon, where it kicked out.
I consider that a full-on win. The fact that it worked from midnight and it just went down for some maintenance, and it was rocking the whole time. I was amazed.
If anything, man, I'm glad it went down a couple times because it forced me to take a break.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
for sure. for sure.
Yeah, like Street Fighter V's beta, like when it was like bop bop every time, right? And you just get kicked
Well-
off constantly.
well, no,
and
if
could
you-
get on.
If you remember when the first one happened, it got canceled because they couldn't get it up.
Oh
Remember?
yeah, I couldn't get it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it was down. That whole weekend was a bust. So people that were taking days off were
Yep.
really pissed off.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely. I remember the login errors because I had set my stick to turbo and I had just left the A button
Bop, bop.
on, and it was just like, yeah,
Bop,
it's like, I'll
bop.
just keep. Let me know when I'm in.
Bump bump.
Yeah,
I
so
could
I
go
mean,
the
we
rest
can-
of my life without that title screen, to be honest. And that's
Yeah. huge 180 from the Street Fighter V beta experience that we had in the beginning.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot to talk about. I think so. So, I mean, we can kind of just jump into it. So I guess we'll start first with Jeff. Kind of just like your overall impressions, gameplay wise, like the HUD, anything else that you had about the game.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was great. I mean, it's definitely a Street Fighter game. It has Street Fighter feel. It doesn't feel like it's, some bastardized version of Street Fighter. It's definitely got all of the characteristics of Street Fighter that we've come to know and love over the years with footsies and mind games and all of that stuff. I really enjoyed it. As far as the gameplay goes, I was stuck to one character mainly for the most part. So, that's was my main experience as far as characters go. But the hub to me was awesome because you could get thrown in a server and you could see who's on there and who's playing, and you could just go up and watch their matches if you wanted to, which was like the coolest thing. I didn't have to go and download someone's replay. I can just walk over to the machine where they were and look at their funky avatar and be scared of it, and then play against them, get in the rotation, or watch their matches. The hub was great.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a much improved thing, I think, from just like the CFN from Street Fighter V. Because before it would be like, hey, what's your CFN? Let me add you. Okay, let me make a lobby. Let me invite you. And it's just like now you can just be like, hey, what server are you in?
Yep. And if they're on your friends list, you can go to where they are, and with just bringing up the menu, and then you can go right to their machine just by bringing up the menu. So you can stalk people through Street Fighter, which is great. So some of you guys think you're gonna hide from OldManRiver. You can't hide for long. I'll find you.
He will find you. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll talk about your character, Kimberly, who you used basically exclusively a little bit later. How about you, Scott? What were your overall impressions of the beta?
Yeah, it was kind of similar to Jeff. I mainly stuck with just Jamie the whole time, just because there wasn't a lot of time to mess with it. And the fact that he's a brand new character, so I was like really interested in that. Overall, I liked it a lot. Just like I said earlier, it just seems like everything is firing on all cylinders with this game. So there's a lot of fresh takes, even though a lot of the drive stuff is kind of recycled ideas from past games. I think they're really strong new iterations of that. Like I feel like Drive Impact is a lot, and combination with the Drive Rush is a more interesting take on focus attack, in my opinion. I think it's a lot more interesting. The parries, I even though they're not really explored yet, I feel like as long as they don't go overboard like Third Strike or anything, I think it's going to have a nice place. The only thing, and me and John kind of briefly touched on it on Twitter, the only problem I had was drive reversals. I felt like they're kind of useless. They're super slow. They kept getting blocked. I didn't see the purpose of them. There's enough tools in the game. I just don't see it having a place. As far as the feel, it feels fine. There's a lot of discourse on Twitter talking about, oh, we're back to a real Street Fighter. And it's like, oh man, it's the same old song and dance again.
Here we go.
It was the same thing that happened when Street Fighter V came out. And I've seen the discourse all over again. And it's just like, what's real Street Fighter? I don't know, man. I think we've had enough games out to know that Street Fighter is not defined by one thing. Yeah. It's different every time, and you have to always be able to embrace new stuff. And this isn't Street Fighter V. It isn't Street Fighter 4. It isn't Street Fighter 2. It isn't Third Strike. It's its own game. You can already tell right off the bat. And I like that. I like that. You don't want the same thing over and over again, because if that was the case, then why even have a new game? But loved it. Battle Hub was cool, a lot better than Guilty Gear Strive for sure. The only thing I didn't like is if you're a non-pad player, so if you're stick or leverless, it's kind of annoying to navigate around there. But other than that, it's cool. I mean, you figure it out, and then like Jeff said, fast travel. Just bring up the menu, see who's in there, and just fast travel right to where they are, and just go. My only really big gripe was getting a rotation on the cabinets. Every time, if there's like multiple people at a cabinet, every time like you lose a match, it just doesn't put you back into the rotation and put you
got to rejoin.
You have to join the cabinet every single time and queue up again. And that was really annoying. I like when I'm done, I just want to kick back in my chair and just let it go and then wait my turn. But now it's like I got to make sure I do that. And it gets a little annoying. That is probably the worst thing I had. That was like my biggest complaint about Street Fighter 6, and that's not that terrible of a complaint to have.
Yeah, it's
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start considering we're in a beta.
It could just be a beta thing too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
true.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then John, you put a lot of time into this too. So what were your kind of overall impressions of everything?
The game feels fantastic. I can't wait to play it again. However that happens, I imagine there's going to be another beta test at some point, or other ways to play the game via events or whatever.
Air quotes, other ways.
I think this game actually has the potential to be like my new favorite fighting game, and I know it's really early, obviously, but it has a lot of the things that I like about different Street Fighter games. So, like Scott mentioned, it's its own thing. It's a brand new game, right? But he also mentioned it does take a bunch of different things from different Street Fighters, and Jeff said it feels like Street Fighter. So it's kind of this amalgamation of all these different Street Fighters. Yeah. It's taking all the things that I like from all the Street Fighters, stuff like whiff punishing, stuff like burst damage into like confirming into supers, like that kind of stuff. Like I really like that style, and this game just seems to be like based around it. It used to be like, that was like Vortex was like a part of Street Fighter 4, and I liked that, but footsies and whiff punishing and stuff, the stuff I like now, like that's all this game is right now. So it's super cool. There's going to be some blemishes. There's going to be some discourse, and that's going to be okay because this is the first version of a new game versus Street Fighter 5, which had 6 years. So it's going to be worse than Street Fighter 5 out of the gates. And it's a new game. We have no competitive data on it yet. So we as the players have to figure out how we want to play it, and the devs have to figure out how they want to balance it. And so it's kind of difficult to really figure that out in advance to say if it's better or worse than other Street Fighters. But overall, it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I only had I think maybe 3 or 4 hours on Saturday to play, and then the rest of the time, like it was like I didn't want to get too involved in it. Like my general overall impressions were really good. I just played Guile because limited time, but just looking through Twitter, like the general reception seems to be really positive. I think maybe the biggest exception was just Drive Impact and people's reactions to that, which we'll talk about a little bit here. But I mean, other than Drive Impact, I feel like a lot of people were pretty happy with that. And then I think the other thing was kind of like the positive negative frame rates on like the normals. Like that's a big departure. But I'm kind of in agreement with like all three of you. Like I feel like this is different enough, but it adds a lot of. I think the best word I think of is kind of just flexibility. Like I feel like that's something that was kind of lacking in Street Fighter 5. Whereas now, like I feel with Drive Rush and all the ways that you can use your meter, like it's gonna open up like different play styles for people. Like if you want to be defensive, or if you want to be somebody that burns through your EX meter or whatever, like you can play how you want and can kind of go from there.
Agree. I think the way that you counter like the optimization fiends, that's kind of what the criticism was with Street Fighter 5, is it was too sterile, right? People like optimized the hell out of it and everything looked the same. The way you counter optimization is you just give everybody a ton of options and overload the optimization fiends and create new situations that they have to optimize for, and that list never ends in this game right now.
Drive Rush.
There's a lot, because it's like do you use your Drive Rush and risk burning out? Like I did that plenty of times myself. Like I'm so used to playing, Street Fighter 4, 5, whatever, throwing EX booms, and it's just like, okay, wait, my drive meter's almost gone. Like, now I have to watch out for other things. Like that's gonna limit my usage of impact on like wake up or impact whenever I want to use it. So yeah, definitely big things there.
It's like the optimal way to play this. Like the optimal answer to a situation changes based on time and based on the meters. It's
And your
just
screen
changing
position.
dynamically. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Your screen position too, because you could get into a situation where, you have them pretty close to the corner and their drive meter's running low and you have maybe about half, and then you just go full out offense and then you just push them into the corner and keep them there until they burn out,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't play that way mid screen though. Mid screen, I would be trying to push them to the corner and using my meter for that instead. So it's a little bit goofy in that sense. You have to really be able to think on the fly, and you have to
Yeah.
be good at managing your meter.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing for me is like I feel this game has a really high mental stack. Like there's so much that you're thinking of at one time.
It's
Whether
overloading.
that's like it's almost to the point to where like I was like not thinking about certain things until it was too late.
yep,
I
totally.
agree. I went through withdrawal on Sunday night afterward. I'm like, man, all of those missed combo opportunities I had because I was trying to do this one thing and see if this one thing would work, and I
Yeah.
wasn't doing optimal this and I wasn't doing that, and so I went through withdrawal, and it was like depression. I was like, oh, all those missed combo opportunities.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I'm actually
Yeah.
at the opposite end of that, where I was so done with the game by the end of the beta that like I actually felt creatively tapped for Chun Li, and I didn't know where to go from there, and I had to go find other players to copy.
Yeah.
so that's
Oh,
kind of
I
interesting.
think that's kind of, that's the game that we play now, right? We can only do so much on our own. You have all of these collective minds sharing all of this other technology and saying this is a good route to go if you're here. This is a good route to go if you're here. And the good thing about something as awful sometimes as Twitter is that we can share all of those things immediately. You
Yeah.
know. So and that's good too, because when you see someone doing something really cool like Valmaster, that's gonna get that creative spark for you too to take it in a
Mhm.
different route based on the way you play,
Yeah,
which is
that's
what this game
what
is.
happened, yeah.
This game excels at that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Like, I mean, I was looking at the Guile stuff online. Like, I'm still the daddy, like the typical Guile players, and like I would see them do all these like drive rush combos and then like level threes, and like it got me thinking about things that I hadn't seen or things that I didn't work. Like I had found that one juggle in the level one, and I was just like, I wonder if this works because this worked in Street Fighter 4. I wonder if something like this would work with the right. Like I didn't understand the juggle properties. I think you were talking about that. Earlier today, Jeff. Like you had learned a lot more like how things work.
Yeah.
So
Are you
so
talking
yeah.
about the supersonic boom into EX flash kick afterward? That
Uh,
juggle?
that was so dumb.
Because that's ridiculous.
no, I
Yeah.
don't know. No, just the one that I found where I was like, I think I didn't even know that target combo, like the crouching heavy kick
Strong. Oh, okay.
into the
The
like the
roundhouse.
diagonal heavy kick, into
Yeah.
the standing
Yeah.
roundhouse.
Yep.
I didn't know that would, I did the flash kick and then I was able to juggle level one, and I was just like, oh, that works.
Yeah.
But then, like, I started, but then, again, the mental stack thing, I started looking at the meter and I was just like, this cost me that much. And, how much damage did this do? And it was like, I don't know, 3,800. And then I started looking at other people's combos and I was like, man, they're hitting like 5,000. So I was just like, yeah, this isn't optimal at all.
Yeah. But it's fun to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah,
definitely.
combos are really fun in this game.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really are. It's something that I felt was missing depending on the character you played in 5, and I was like, man, this is kind of a return to form.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nice. It's really
Every
nice to
character-
have that freedom.
I think in 5 you had like every character had a pressure special attack, and then a knockdown special attack that did more damage, and then a knockdown special attack that gave Oki but did less damage, and everybody followed that formula to a certain degree, right? But in
Sure.
in 6, like my character has like 6 special moves, and I can pick which one I want to go into, and they each give a different situation that's dependent on the drive. So like there's so many different ways to be expressive with a
That's
character, I think.
that's the other thing too that I noticed immediately, man. When I was when I turned on the beta and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pick Jamie, and I'm going through the move list, and I'm just like, holy crap, this is starting to look like a Tekken move list.
It's
There's
overloading,
many-
dude.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of moves. I'm like, this is a lot more than your average Street Fighter. And then I was, I mess with Ken, and I'm just like, good lord, there's just a lot.
Yeah.
They added a lot to these characters.
It's
So No, I was just gonna say, just in terms of like the overall the gameplay system, like I think we're all kind of in agreement with the drive reversal. Like that doesn't seem like it's very viable at this point, like in terms of like meter
No,
usage or
It's
anything.
garbage, dude.
I know for me, like I hadn't really delved into like how to use it, but I had it come out on accident and it saved me a couple times. But I was
Yes.
just like, oh man, it burned my meter, and I was just
Yeah.
like, but I didn't want to do that.
That's exactly what happened to me. Most of my experiences was because I accidentally did it and it got blocked
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, dude, it was the worst. It's like, hey,
It's
I
the
want to
worst.
drive impact after a fireball, and you get that thing from half screen. That happened to me so much.
That whiffs.
Yep.
Or they
Yeah,
block.
yeah, and then after a while, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start using this and just see what happens. And it just gets blocked every time. It's so slow, and I'm like, and you can't. A lot of games, you use it to save yourself from a chip damage kill, but you can only chip damage to begin with when you're in burnout, where you won't have access to it anymore. So I'm just like, what's the point of this move?
Well, yeah, and the thing
Yeah,
is
it's
too,
nothing.
like if it's -8, right?
Yeah.
The
What are you
drive
gonna
reversal is
do?
-8. Yeah, what are you gonna do? I mean, Rue's crouch forward is faster than 8 frames, so he can just block it and then crouch forward super you anyway.
I mean, yeah, like I said, we were all in agreement that reversal is kind of a waste of meter. Like me and Scott were doing it accidentally, like we didn't want to.
Yep.
I mean, overdrive's basically just like EX moves, right? I mean, there's going to be utility for that offensively, juggle combos, punishes, things like that. So, I mean, I don't think that that's really anything in depth that we'd have to
Well, I do.
go into.
I want to bring
Oh, go ahead.
something up real quick, Benny. Sorry, let me interject. But super canceling off of EX moves,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
level
Oh,
1 and
yeah.
level 2
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like it?
So it forces you to use extra meter, but I mean there's a situation for it,
Yeah.
It just I guess it just depends on the character.
I got
I
something
know.
to say about that.
Yeah.
So you got to have EX meter and all that in order to, or drive meter to do your overdrive. I call them EXs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's going to be EX
in
for
order
me all
in
the
order to
time.
do a level 2, and I think maybe this is a discussion for another segment. And I one thing I didn't like is, and someone mentioned it on Twitter, and I agreed. I can't remember who brought it up, but I found myself a lot of times doing the combos wrong when I was like, oh, I'm going to do an overdrive or whatever into this level 2, but you have to look at 2 different spots on the screen for your meters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ooh,
I
okay.
don't like the fact that the drive gauge is at the top and your super meter is at the bottom. And sometimes you need to look at both of those to determine what combo you want to do. And I'm thinking about that when it comes to doing EX moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
Oh, okay.
disconnected.
Yeah, they're disconnected. You're not looking at the top that much. You want to look at your eyes are mostly on the bottom half of the screen. Occasionally you look up to see your life, but you're looking at the bottom half because that's where the action is.
Yeah.
And that's where your meter is. And I was having a problem with that sometimes.
I have a counterpoint to that. If I could have the floor. One thing so with the drive meter, how we interpret the drive meter at least is like, if you notice, there's no numbers next to it, right? And so because it's moving so fluidly that number would just constantly change and confuse the shit out of everybody. So all we can really do is like look at the bar and look at the color of it. And so what happens with super meter and drive meter is that your brain is interpreting them differently, where the super meter, you're looking at the number, basically. You're looking at the number, or like, how close am I to the next number? But for the drive gauge, you're looking at how much do I have left and what color is it? And so if you put them next to each other, I feel like my wires would get crossed. I'm not saying that's the wrong answer. But like that is something they have to think about now because of that. If you mesh that shit together and people are looking at it cognitively differently.
Sure, there's a possibility that they already did mess with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just know that there was times where I'm like, man, I didn't realize that my drive gauge was that low because my eyes are not focused on that area of the screen.
Yeah. If you think about it, because in like Street Fighter 4, I think even in 5, right? Like those kind of meters were at the bottom, right? Like the ultra meter was next to the super bar, and like those offensive meters are next to each other. Like I didn't think about that. Like typically at the top is where you see like the guard bar or the stun bar. Like
which is what your drive meter is too, though, right?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember in the location test for Street Fighter 4, initially the ultra meter was at the top next to the life bars. And then they eventually moved it down to the super bar.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Ultra's another example where
I think there was an option too.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say. I thought there was an option to like. I mean, that's like a personal preference to like adjust the HUD too in the game. Like you
Yeah.
can move stuff around. Like I mean,
Sure,
but,
yeah,
you
you
know,
could, but then you go to an offline event, then you're
then you're
you
gonna
don't
be
want to
messed up.
get too adjusted to that. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, sorry. Yeah,
Go ahead, John.
continue on.
Ultra is a good example of another gauge that is not based on number; it's based on color and segment, right? And I think it feels like there's just like a way that the brain parses it differently.
Yeah.
Another thing that like kind of blew my mind, if we're talking about some of the overdrive moves, is like I don't think they're always needed to confirm into supers. So like in my case, like I had an EX move to easily confirm into my level 2, but I found myself over time getting better and being like, oh, I don't need to burn that drive meter. I can just go normal into level 2. And so like there are moments where I'm like, oh, the drive meters and the EX moves are kind of like training wheels. And that seemed kind of cool. It's very organic.
Oh, yeah, I could kind of see that. I don't know. I guess for me, it just kind of opened my eyes to more offensive kind of things, because like that, you know, I saw Chun Li combos where I was just like, wait, he could do EX and then he could do super, because like my mind is, you know, in that mode where it's just like, if I burn this, like I don't have this available anymore until I build that other, you know, quarter stock back.
Bro, you
Yeah,
want to know? You want to know what's crazy? You want to know what's crazy about all this? And I think everyone will agree with this. How odd does it feel to do EXs into super again? You guys might not know, but me and Jeff, we played games where we used to do EXs into supers.
Mm-hmm.
No, I found that extremely
had
confusing. Yeah,
we haven't had that in forever. We haven't had that.
It's been a while.
Since pre Street Fighter 4, we have not had that, and I thought it was a really weird. It was just really weird. I'm like, mate, I could do EXs and I could do super. This is so wild. I loved it. I love that.
The closest thing I got to that was like games that would be Street Fighter 4, where you could do like an EX move and then go into Ultra afterward, like Rufus. Or
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's probably the closest. But yeah, it's just it was such a cool. I think it's a cool like throwback, I guess you could say, and it lends itself again to more of an open style.
Yeah, it's definitely it's an influencing tool, because you have to choose whether or not you want to do an EX move that's going to push them to the corner and keep them there, or whether or not you want to do an EX move into a super that's going to not give you positional advantage at all, but give you a little bit more damage. So you're constantly juggling all of these options, which I think this game is really good at so far, because it's really given you the creativity to kind of play how you want to play. And even though you may not be optimal, if your whole gig is to push them to the corner and get them there so that you can land level 3, and that's what you want to do and force them into burnout, then you use your meter that way. You don't necessarily have to play the way that everyone else is playing. And the EX system or the overdrive system is a really big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of optimal, I mean, you got ways to use drive rush to, you know, increase damage or to press offense. So I guess we'll start with Scott. Like, what was your overall impressions of like drive rush and using that within the frameworks of your offense?
I loved it. I think it's great. And it kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, we'll talk about the elephant in the room after this, because it kind of goes hand in hand with that. But I love the tool. I like it. Sometimes I wonder if like maybe there should have been like a button sequence combination to make it simpler for non-leverless player. For obviously hitbox players are not going to experience any problems. But I noticed that the forward is it seems like it's very precise. Like there's no play, because there's a couple times where I want to do it. And I'm like, I know I hit forward and I got nothing. And I wonder it's probably, maybe it's for the best, that it doesn't register like down forwards or anything like that. But otherwise, I think it's not really that much of an issue, but it was just something, it was an observation I had. But otherwise, I love the mechanic. I think it's great. I think it's really cool. All the moves are basically negative in this game, and this is a way to make your moves positive and to have an offensive pressure still,
exactly.
And of course, like we were saying earlier, it lends to a lot of combo possibilities, like stuff that looks like it doesn't even look like it should work. Like when you see Ryu, like he's juggling and then he drive rushes in the middle of nowhere and hits you with a low forward. Like it looks like an OTG. And I'm like, okay, this is really sick. Or like, when I could do that after Jamie's level 3. And I'm like, it doesn't look like there's enough room to throw something in there, but there is. And I'm like, this is really cool. And it just lends to a lot of cool combo opportunities. But not only that, it can lend itself to offensive opportunities, you know, when you do the parry rush, which I didn't even realize till the beta came out that it was only 1 bar. I thought that was also 3 bars.
Yeah.
So
That's
there's so much you could do, and I like that.
Yeah, I know. Me and you, we talked about it at work. Like for me, this is something that's like completely new because playing Honda and Street Fighter 4, like I didn't have FADC combos like Sakura does, and other characters did. Like I didn't rely on it. It was a mix up. It was one mix up Honda had, and that was it. Like I didn't use it at all. So for me, like this opens up possibilities that. I mean, for me personally, I think it's easier to do like the dash because I had trouble doing those FADC combos. I mean, I don't know. It could have just been a matter of just not playing a character that needed it, but I had trouble doing like a lot of combos. So, what about you, Jeff? In terms of the drive rush, did you have other things to add?
Yeah, no, I I agree with everything that Scott said. One thing that I did want to mention briefly is that there's obviously with the manual, I call it the manual drive rush because there's a drive rush cancel, which is where you cancel a move into drive rush and that takes 3 stock. And there's a manual drive rush, which is where you hold down the middle buttons for parry and then you dash forward out of it. You can actually cheat the system and buffer it. I found out you can hit forward and the buttons and hit forward again. So
really?
it kind of cuts down a little bit on your time.
Oh wow.
But what people are discovering is that gives you juggle possibilities in the game that you normally wouldn't have. That doesn't eat up your bar the way that drive rush cancels do off of normals.
Yeah.
So I think as time goes on, the system is going to get figured out a lot more. But I mean, we're seeing people do 4 crouch fierces in 1 Kimberly combo using the manual drive rush instead of the drive rush cancel off of normals. So seeing stuff like that is really neat.
It's cool.
Seeing someone throw a fireball full screen with Rue and then being able to do a manual drive rush and catch them with crouch forward out of the air, so it juggles them out of the air, even though it's a grounded move and you're on the ground, is really neat. Stuff like that. You can hit them with crouch fierce and it'll restand them after they flip out in the corner. I mean, it's pretty expressive with what you're able to do. But I think the key is going to come down to being able to try and squeeze as many fierces and roundhouses into a combo as you can using the manual drive rush method instead of using the cancels. The cancels push to the corner really fast, but the manual drive rush, you can do it out of nowhere and go into an overhead or a low. So you're constantly, if you're at a quarter screen away, you're constantly making your opponent guess about whether or not you're going to hit them with an overhead and then combo them into the corner for a quarter of their life.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
certain characters, Chun has that. I think Jamie had it too. Kimberly had it. Rue has it. Ken has it. So a lot of the characters have that drive rush into overhead. So you're guessing at mid screen when you normally wouldn't have to do that. So there's an extra bit of tension that comes along with that meter as well and using that move.
Yeah. I don't know, like in terms of like what Guile has. I did
He has
run
overhead.
into I ran into to Munchie, one of the local AZ players here, randomly in the lobby when I happened to be on, and he was playing Guile as well, and that's where I first got my taste of seeing like the parry, the drive. What were you calling it? The drive rush cancel?
I call it a manual drive rush. I mean, the technical term is just they're both drive rushes. One of them is a cancel off a normal, and the other one is out of a parry situation.
Yeah,
but
because he would do stuff like that. Like he would I'd see him do the manual one, and then like he would dash up, and all of a sudden like I see an overhead coming at me, and I'm you're playing Guile holding crouch down back, and I'm just like, wait, what? The overhead? Just like he just dashed in and overheaded.
Yeah.
So
and he'll throw a sonic boom in front of that, and then follow it up with the drive rush, and then hit you with an overhead while you're blocking the sonic boom low. Or if you're standing, he'll just dash up and do the sweep into offensive crouch roundhouse that you were talking about earlier, that target combo. Yeah, stuff like that. You really got to be aware.
And then same thing with that one where I linked before the show where Guile threw out a sonic boom, did the manual drive rush behind it, and then the guy tried to neutral jump it because neutral jumping fireballs is a common tactic, right?
Not anymore.
It's like nope, not anymore. You gotta have to think differently now.
Yeah. So in terms of John, like I know prior to the beta, he seemed a little bit skeptical about Chun Li. Like just he thought maybe she was too complicated
He's
for
crazy.
him. But then like as the weekend progressed and as the time went on, it was just like, hey, I found this out. Oh, this is cool. Oh, I saw this on Twitter. And like his, at the end of the beta, like I feel like he did a complete 180. So like, how are you feeling about like the drive rush and like how your games evolved over the weekend?
Yeah. So I think drive rush as a mechanic is the answer to, is a direct answer to Street Fighter V in a lot of ways. So like the thing about expression with drive rush, and we like Jeff and Scott have kind of already talked about that one, about how expressive it is. The Street Fighter 4 had that in the terms of the FADC system, right? But the criticism of the FADC system is what you talked about earlier, Benny, in that it was hard to do that shit. If I wanted to do DP FADC, I had to do a Dragon Punch, I had to do a hold down focus attack, I had to dash after the focus attack, and then I had to do whatever move afterwards, like an Ultra or something. That's a lot of inputs, right? So what they did with Drive Rush, I think, is they took FADC, which everybody liked, and then they split it up. And they said, all right, the cancel part that was hard for people to do, we're going to make it so you just tap dash twice, or tap forward twice, and that's how you do it. If you want the cool like extra combos and stuff that FADC did, we can give you the manual drive rush stuff and give you juggles and stuff, or mix-ups like into the overheads, which is what FADC was as well. So like it feels like they took a lot of like the stuff that they wanted to, that was successful in other games, and then just like amped it up here and made it extra fair, extra cool, extra rewarding. Drive Rush in particular kind of accentuates this meta, I think, where it's burst damage. It kind of reminds me of Cross Tekken in that regard, where you poke something and then you cancel that in a Drive Rush into big damage. It's kind of like a poke into a boost chain, or a poke into a tag cancel. And the big thing about it, though, is that the Drive Rush cancel is 3 bars, and that is too expensive for me to do on block, in my opinion. And again, that varies depending on players' play styles, right? Like I think that would be okay with Jeff. But I saw that and I was like, I only want to use this for whiff punishes. I don't want to just throw this out there and try to take frame advantage and confirm, because I get in, I hit one button and I'm already negative again. So I'd rather just stay out, and then if I see a whiff punish, then I burn Drive Rush.
See, and that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. You can play your own way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And Kimberly's Tatsu pushes way hella far. So I mean, it's worth it to me if you block it and you're standing, and then I get crouch short, crouch jab Tatsu, and it pushes you to the corner.
Yeah. You could do a drive rush and get your
want.
standing roundhouse with Kimberly, because now you have an additional plus button, so it behooves you to use it that way. Versus with me, it might be better for me to back off and just throw fireballs instead. Oh man, that's such a cool mechanic. That's all I have to say. It's so cool. It's so cool.
I told you, man. Like at the end of the weekend, like you were basically kind of like gushing about like all kinds of stuff, which I thought was cool, because like I just remember like, going into the weekend, you're kind of like, I don't know, we'll see. And then it was just like, oh man, I figured out this cool stuff.
I threw a fireball from full screen and I converted off of it with Drive Rush, and it was so cool. And I put it on Twitter and I felt like a badass.
Nice.
Just wait till you start finding the juggles, so you can do like
I didn't even touch that.
Whatever your mini launcher is. I don't know what Chun Li's mini launcher is, but you could launch and then manual Drive Rush into launch again, and do like
Marvel combos.
legs into fireball in the air while you're pushing them to the corner, over and over. It's going to be really neat when it gets figured out. When the juggle point system off of that mechanic alone gets figured out, you're going to see the combo potential explode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of beauty in games, I mean, the one thing that people love about Street Fighter Third Strike is the parry system. And it's a polarizing thing. I personally, I mean, it's 50-50 for me. Like I love the moments that it creates, but I hate how much it kind of like limited me in like the footsie game, because like I'm the type of person, like I don't notice my own patterns, and if you notice my patterns, like I'm getting blown up the whole game. Like I remember, I'd play Scott or Jeff at TGZ, and I'd be like, where'd my life go? It's because like, oh, you're gonna low forward here, and here you're gonna eat all this damage, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
So how are you guys feeling about the parry system? We'll start off with you, Jeff, this time.
Okay, well, I'm no stranger to the game of parry and the mind games that are introduced because of parry. So it's not something that's foreign to me. It's something that, you know, I obviously had a lot of practice with playing all of the Street Fighter 3 games for many years. So it's not something that's uncomfortable, but I did notice that a lot of players were not comfortable with parry. And I think the reason why is because maybe they're newer players, and it just, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you have to kind of predict how your opponent is going to play. And if you aren't good at reading people, like parry is just, it's a pretty big downfall. Scott was trying to parry me a lot last when we played, and I was throwing him everywhere because I knew he was going to try and parry. But that's just because Scott and I have been playing games for so long. I kind of understand like what he's looking for in my wake up and vice versa. But with it being frame one, what's really neat to me is that you can kind of option select it into drive rush, right? So you can kind of hit it to see if they're going to drive rush you, and if they don't, you can kind of drive rush back if you want. You can use it to play a chicken a little bit, which I thought was really neat. And with it starting on frame one, I think it's a really good tool to beat a lot of things in the corner. And really, all you have to do is just hold down the buttons. And John, you can probably tell them that really cool story about how you tried to do back fierce into EX legs into super with Chun, and I just parried all of it. When I was in the corner, and you were trying to put me in burnout, and I just parried his entire thing.
Exactly.
And you get all your meter back.
Yeah, and I got my meter back too. But what was difficult for me was trying to figure out the timing for parrying perfect booms versus regular booms when I was like, you know, super close away when I was playing Guile. I had a hard time trying to figure out, you know, because they can just wait until your parry ends and then they can boom you. That was a little bit difficult for me. But the most difficult thing for me was trying to get perfect parry. I really had a hard time doing it. I was very unsuccessful with it. I believe it's frames like 2 or 3 of the parry.
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Yeah. So it's like you have to time the buttons perfectly to get it. And, you know, it's really cool because like there's a cinematic and the game slows down. And but then there's also a downside to it too, where if you do get that perfect parry and if you hit buttons too soon, you suffer a 50% damage penalty. So like you only get half the damage. So you kind of have to wait a little bit. So it's also more difficult in that sense, because not only do you have to perfect parry on frame 1 or 2, but then you have to wait a little bit and figure out when is my damage going to be at 100% to punish them. So you know, I think they did that as a way to like keep people from spamming, you know, and just you get less damage even if you do it right. But if you're just spamming it and you get lucky and get a perfect parry, if you don't know the mechanics of it, you're going to get less damage.
My only experience, like I didn't use the parry too much. I think it was just against Munchie. It's like, you know, obviously I saw people parrying like my fireballs, like third strike, you know, building a meter that way. Against Munchie, like I had tried it against like jump ins, because I was like, you know, I was able to actually kind of perfect parry here and there, because like that's when I first noticed like the slowdown. I didn't know how to capitalize off of it, of course, but it was something that I was just like, oh well, this could open up things if I wanted to be more offensive or try to read my opponents that way. But you bring up a good point in terms of like, I wonder if that's going to be something that we might see more with like the older players, because like you guys have played those games, and it's just like, is this like a mechanic that you guys are going to try to use more often, or versus like the newer players? Like, you know, there's some people that'll do that kind of stuff, but you know, the majority I think would probably lean towards the more, you know, confirmable stuff or the easier stuff per se. So what about you, Scott, in terms of the parry? How are you you know, incorporating that into your game?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm always been polarized when it comes to the parry. Like I like third strike. I don't, but I hate parries sometimes. I love it, like, but I hate it, and for the same reasons. You know, it creates infinite scenarios, especially hype scenarios. It's just limitless, right? And that's amazing. But it never feels good when like you just jab it and you just randomly lose all your life, right? It's not a good feeling. And my biggest takeaway from this, I was when they introduced parries in this, I was like, oh no, here we go, right? And then I was like, oh god, you just hold a button down, it just parries everything, high, low, cross up, whatever. And I was like, oh no, this isn't good. And because I feel like, First Strike's a great game, but it's like, can we leave that system in that game?
Yeah.
But when as they start showing us more information and then we see the damage scaling, I was like, okay, they're really thinking about this. The fact that you get a perfect parry, all right, cool, but then the damage is like super scaled. Like they don't want people to run away with wins, just get one parry and it's just life melting. And it's just it's not a good feeling. It's a terrible feeling when that happens to you. It's obviously awesome when the attacker gets it, but it just sucks. I was like, man, I didn't even throw out anything really crazy and I just lost because of it. It's a crappy feeling. And I feel like I think it's too early to say, because I think that's going to be the mechanic that's going to get figured out last, honestly, in the meta. And it's too early to say, but right now I like how it feels right now. The perfect parry, I didn't land him too much, but I don't feel like it's going to take over the game at all.
Yeah.
So that's really my takeaway. I don't really have too much to say on it. I just did want it to go to the Street Fighter 3 style,
Yeah.
We don't need that again. I know, like, if there's Third Strike aficionados in here talk about it, they're probably looking at me like I'm fucking nuts. Sorry, excuse my language. And it is what it is. It's like, it had its place there. I don't want parries to dictate the entire game again. It's just not what I like. So, but yeah, I'm curious to see where it's going to go, a year down the road, whatever. And that's the thing. We're in the patch generation. So if it ever does get too out of control, it can always change.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm in that 50-50 camp too, where like, it does lead to hype moments. And I love seeing those kind of things. I hate being on the receiving end of like, somebody reading me like a book and just like, oh, you're going to wake up to do this. And I was like, oh man, like, come on. Like, and I just lose that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of losing that way, are we going to see that clip on Twitter, John?
Which one?
The one that Jeff's talking about? Do you have that footage?
Oh, I didn't stream that one.
Yeah,
Shucks. That happened to the
recycle bin. So what about you, John, with the parry system? I know that's something that you and Scott kind of went back and forth, prior to the beta weekend.
Oh yeah, like we were debating about the scaling and about it, because I think a lot of the new gen folks are like, hey, I guessed right. I want the reward for it, but I don't have frankly the PTSD from Third Strike and what that felt like. I genuinely don't know what parry is for in this game. Like specific. So perfect parry aside, if we just talk the regular parry, it's a shield, right? And so the numbers behind it are, if you absorb an attack, then you take that move's block stun to recover. So like if I absorb like a dragon punch or something, my parry will just last until I would have normally been freed from the block stun of a dragon punch. So it'd still be unsafe. I still get to punish it, blah, blah, blah. But because it's a variable time on recovery, it's really weird to like do anything with it. And so it's not really there for punishing. It's not really there for countering. It's just there to like stall, I think, because then you absorb a block string and then you're still in their face and you're still negative. And so I'm not really sure what it's for besides to restore your drive gauge. And then perfect parry, I think it like I don't have anything new that Scott and Jeff haven't already said. There's a possibility actually that like they buff it. Like they could go like season by season and be like, this season drive impact's good, next season parry's good, and they could just change the flavor of the game that way. But I just like right now parry next to the reversal. I don't think it's very useful right now. It's cool. It's there. It's a defensive mechanic, and that way people don't cry about that. So.
Yeah, I got you. Like I didn't know that thing about the normal parry. So you're saying that there's situations like the dragon punch where it would be more disadvantageous to like normal parry that instead of just to block and then punish?
It's still advantageous to do that. It's just that like to punish, like the timing is different after every parry. It's based on whatever you blocked. So you have to watch them and then do it. You don't recover right away.
What was coming out on Twitter though is like, I don't know if you saw the videos where I think it was like with Ken, they were canceling out of the regular parry into specials and doing full-on punishes. So I think I just don't think that I don't think anyone's really. It's going to be one of those mechanics that's going to take the longest to figure out.
That's
Yeah,
fair
for
too.
There could be some really crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, because I didn't experiment with being able to cancel out of the parry stance, and apparently
Yeah.
that's a lot. There's a lot there because Ken can cancel in a run, can he?
He
like-
could cancel into any of his specials, as far as I understand.
Ugh. So if he can cancel, so he could do like a juggle cancel and a run, and then with the parry, and then that costs 1 bar instead of a traditional drive. rush.
So it's just very unexplored right now.
Yeah.
You know, it just wasn't enough time to like really dive into that one. That's going to be, it's going to take a while to figure that
Need
one
more
out.
time with the game to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More training.
exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, well, speaking of movements or moves that were explored a lot, I mean, I think everybody was talking about drive impact.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah, my personal experience with it is like at first I didn't even know, I wasn't, it wasn't even in my mind until I got hit by it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is something I can do too, right? And like for me, like it reminded me of the power crushes in Tekken 7, because like and the way I look at it is like that was the kind of move like when I played lower level Tekken players, it blows them up really bad. Like like I play Kumo, right? And
Yep.
he does like his is like a back punch, I think back 2, and it, it eats the armor. The armor eats like the whatever buttons they're pressing, and then it crushes them, and everybody's like, oh man, this is bullshit, right? But then like we'll get paid. I play like the top players, and they're just like, whatever, sidestep this or whatever, and they're out of the way. That's nothing to them. And like that's kind of like the kind of the evolution that I saw over the weekend with Drive Impact is like first everybody was just like, oh man, this is crazy, this is too noob friendly, and this is scrubby shit and whatever. But like as the weekend got on, I even looked at it earlier today, and it was just like, oh, you have a problem with Drive Impact? Here's one way to deal with it. And it was just like there's like all these videos now of people how to get around it and what you can do. So like we'll start with John this time in terms of like the Drive Impact. Like, what were your overall initial impressions of it, and like how did that evolve for you for the weekend?
Yeah, I my initial impression was one of gatekeeping. I was like, get good, scrubs. It was just like an immediate reaction to like everyone saying it's too good, needs to be nerfed and stuff like that. Because like it's a scrub killer button. It's exactly what how you described with that Tekken mechanic, Benny, where it's a gateway. So like I don't have to mess with Sorry, let me take a step back. In Street Fighter V, you could get scrubbed out really easily by somebody just walking up to you, hitting medium over and over again, and then converting into a combo, right? And so you couldn't really do much about that, and that was really like frustrating to a lot of people because it's like, hey, I know I'm a better player, or I think I am at least, and so I know how to I can't stop this because I know he's just gonna walk forward and medium me. So what do I do? So in that game, it just didn't leave you with a ton of options. In this game, I hit one button. I move on. Like I beat him. He doesn't either knows how to deal with it or doesn't, and then we move on. Like it's not that bad, and it's really, really, really rewarding to punish one, and that feels so good that I would rather them not nerf it, so that way it happens more often, so I can get more free wins and punish people because it looks so cool when it hits. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end, towards the end, I wasn't even going for it as much as I did initially because it's so high risk too. Like I've been punished for it, and it hurts really bad. Like you take a full on crumple standing combo, and you get punish countered, so you lose some drive gauge too. Sometimes it's just not worth going for. So it turns into a game of chicken. And who's gonna throw that haymaker first?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like my initial impression was like, I didn't remember about using it. Then somebody used it, and then I only had that 3 or 4 hour window when I played, and then it was just like for like 30 minutes. There was 30 minutes in there where like after I learned about it, I was trying to hit it all the time because I was getting blown up by it really bad in the corner. Like I'd be like, okay, I could just block, and then I get impacted into the wall, and I'm just like, wait, this guy gets a free combo after this? It's like this is dumb. Yeah. But like I was in that same situation where I was trying to go back and forth and try to abuse it myself. And then eventually it was kind of like, okay, now this is just another kind of element of footsies that I got to look out for. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really think it was like something that was OP. So what about you, Scott?
Real quick, if I could just add one more thing. It does blow up autopilot, but it does add a mental stack, another stack layer on the mental stack that we have to watch for. And that can be exhausting. And so I can kind of understand some criticisms in that regard. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're in the corner.
Yeah.
So what about you, Scott, in terms of the drive impact? How was what were your overall impressions and usage of it?
I think it's pretty much the same as everyone else thought at the beginning. Like, what is this bullshit? you know, but you know, it's a 26 frame move. I mean, I think that's reasonable, you know, to be able to react to. And then when you add on, you know, the armor hits that slow it down even more, you know, you get even more time. It only sucks, man, when someone gets a read on you and you've already committed to a sequence.
Yeah.
Well,
The
not
string
even
stuff.
that. Just any string. Like even if you're Ryu and you just do a low forward fireball,
Yep.
and
String
they just
stuff.
happen to DI your low forward. Now you're stuck. You know, it's a crappy feeling, but it is what it is. You gotta be smart about, you know, where you place your attacks and all that stuff. But it feels really good when you counter it and everything. It's a great feeling and all that, and I think it's a pretty cool mechanic. Over time you just get used to it. But you gotta think about your play style and how you attack to not get blown up by it. And I was mentioning to you, John. I don't know if you guys read it in our chats, but it reminds me a lot of Alpha 3 with Vism, right? And
Yeah.
when you talk about mental stack, it's because in Alpha 3, when both players are using Vism, you have to worry about the saying goes is like the person who activates first loses.
Yeah.
Because if you jump in on me and I activate my Vism, and then you know that you activate your Vism to go through my invincibility, I lose, right?
Yeah.
So it makes me not want to activate on your jump in, right?
Yeah.
And then you know, and then they're thinking the same thing on their end or whatever, right? So then it basically turns into over time, like, all right, he's good at counter activating me, so therefore I'm not going to use it anymore.
Yeah.
So then you could go a whole match and not ever touch Vism. And then it's the same thing here. Eventually, once both players understand, they create this relationship with each other that like, oh man, I can't just throw this out there. He can counter it every time, and vice versa. Now you go matches without ever touching the mechanic ever again. But then you might throw it out like a couple matches later, like maybe he's falling asleep at the wheel. I'm gonna see if I can sneak this in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the guy still catches you with it. Now you're reestablishing that relationship all over again. You know, I think that's interesting at the end. So it really reminds me of Alpha 3. 'Cause Alpha 3, the mental stack is really huge on that because you're always worried about VC because that could kill you if he lands it on you. But it's like, and you want to land it, but you know what happens if you try, you know?
Yeah.
And it becomes really difficult and it is very exhausting.
Yeah.
It's
That was
extremely exhausting. The only thing I know, I saw Tragic in there said, "Don't ever change it. Don't nerf it or anything." And I agree, don't nerf it at all. But I worry about the new players. I worry about it being a turnoff when they're coming in and they're just getting blown up by it. And they're just like, well, I'm just going to go play another game then. I do worry about that. Maybe it's not a thing. I don't know. The only issues I was really having at the end, now that you know, we've been off it for a couple days, is when I'm looking for it and then they do a drive rush and I see the green, I react to it, and then I go into a drive impact thinking it's a drive impact, and it's throwing me off. And maybe that's just something that will come over time where I'll get used to that. But I think at the end, that was like really where my problem was I was reacting to someone's drive rush and not the drive impact because I just see pretty colors. Let me go get it. Like maybe they could do something there, not change the move at all, but maybe change like drive rush and how it looks. I don't know what the answer to that is. Maybe it's just me. I gotta get good scrub and just like get used to that, you know. But otherwise, I like it overall.
Yeah, that was something I saw. I think it was maybe there's a Twitter clip about like Guichi or somebody that said that like they were like trying to react. They thought they saw that, but then it was drive rush instead, and then they ended up getting punished. And then like the thing you're talking about Alpha 3, that was like the big thing with the at Evo with John Choi. I remember you talking about that when you were in the podcast previously in terms of John Choi and the you know, not activating Vism. So like that's an interesting comparison for the drive impact.
And to add what Tragic just said in there, you know, it does give someone it was the same thing as what they did with focus attack. I know like Seth would always talk about this. It's like versus like a parry and third strike, you press forward and like nothing happens, right? Unless you get the parry, right? And then like they specifically made the focus attack where you hit buttons and it's visually doing something, right? And
Yeah.
I think what Chad's just saying there, it's the same thing. It's giving the new player something to do, which is a good thing. You know, you get in this thing that's super, super pretty and colorful, and it has
Yeah.
this huge impact. And so
Yeah.
on the flip side, that is a really good thing for the new player. I just,
Mhm.
but I do just worry that, like, man, if they just keep getting blown up by it and they may get too frustrated, I do worry about that. That's my only thing.
Can you imagine being a kid again and going over to your neighbor's house playing this game, and then the neighbor beats you with this drive impact button, and you're like, you ask him, how do you do it? How do you beat this? How do you beat this? And you're like, oh, you do it after me. You do it. You just wait till I do it, and then you do it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the answer. And then the kids get it, and they have fun doing that stuff. They just play chicken the whole time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
That's absolutely what it is. It's
Yeah.
you know, it comes down to an understanding of whether or not your opponent is going to be able to react to yours, and you know, when they think you're going to do it. I mean, obviously everyone's going to try and DI you in the corner. Like that's what they want to do. However, I had a different experience. Most of my DIUs was doing it on wake up to keep from getting pressured, and to avoid jump-ins. When someone's jumping at you, if you just DI, you just blow right through their jump-in attack and get out of the corner for free, unless they super you, but no one ever did that. You know, they could land and super you as you're recovering from it. But that was what I used mine mostly for. And you know, obviously I snuck some in the corner to wall splat and stuff like that. And you know, especially in burnout, like you get so hyper focused on wanting to do it while your opponent is in the corner in burnout that you make mistakes. You know, so you really have to like kind of pick and choose. Or if your opponent has super, now the meta starts where, okay, I'm going to dizzy him because I have DI, he has no meter, he's in burnout, he's in the corner, but he has super. Are his reactions good enough for me to test that? You know, and it's the same way with when they have meter and you have DI too. Are his reactions or her reactions going to be good enough to reverse DI me when I do it? You know, so there's another level of mind games that's going on there. But personally, I think it's fine. It's funny that you said scrub killer, John, because that's exactly what I was going to say. It's, you know,
Yeah.
if you're just randomly mashing buttons in mid or in the corner, like, yeah, you know, you deserve to get blown up for it. You need to play a little bit more calculated than that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of a neat thing to put in there to just throw out every once in a while to see what they do and how they react to it.
It's a major
However,
knowledge check. It's a
yeah,
major knowledge check.
it's a knowledge check and it's a reaction check too. And on top of that, I found that it has some pretty negative downsides too when your opponent is able to read what you're doing, because not only can they reverse DI you on reaction if they're fast enough, but they can parry it. So
Yeah, I
there
saw
were a
that too,
couple
yeah.
times I tried to splat people in the corner and they were like, I'm just going to parry this and then punish you with a full punish counter combo. And that hurts, you know, when it's coming from Rue. So, you know, I didn't do it anymore, you know, and
Yeah.
now you're back to square one. Well, you know, how do I build an offense using new mechanics? But now you're scared to use those new mechanics too. So you got to figure something else out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was something that, yeah, the more I learned about how to counter it, whether it was, reacting back and like waiting for that, or you can cancel in the super. Like I did that in one clip that I had, but I guess I deleted my footage, so I was
Good
a
job.
little bummed out about that because I was just like, oh man, this would be a great clip, and I was like, wait, what happened on my videos? But either way,
There was
I
one
mean, it
moment.
was.
There was one moment with Drive Impact where I jumped in on Jeff. This is what Jeff was talking about. I jumped in on Jeff to use Drive Impact as an anti-air, and then I did my block string. I jump in, jumping roundhouse, strong, jab, back forward, because I autopiloted. I was like, oh, he's in block stun from the jump in. I'm just gonna do my string, push myself out, and go for chip or something, right? I was just autopiloting, and then he absorbed all that and killed my ass for it. And so at that point, I was like, oh, okay, so this is preventing me from like falling asleep at the wheel and just autopiloting my offense and pissing people off when they have to block that.
Yeah.
yeah. When someone can bust that out, at any moment's notice and just blow through your entire string that you were already pre-planning,
Yeah.
it's scary,
Yeah.
So I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I will tell you the only thing that I thought about that really sucks is when you're in burnout and let me take a step back. When your opponent is in burnout and they're in the corner and they have no super, and you have meter in level 3, it's game over for them, and it's an inescapable situation, because you can knock them down one time and you can meaty DI them and they get dizzied.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where the meter management,
Or you
meta of
meaty,
the
or you
game comes
meaty
in.
crush, or you do like a meaty crush medium kick into it, and
And you're
block
plus,
stun,
and they
the
can't
block
jump out of
stun
it.
is so huge that you can't jump out.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
especially
big.
with Kimberly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm okay with that. I think that we talked a little bit about this before, but I'm okay with that because of the very, very like narrow situation that happens in. Because
Yeah,
if I have
very
no
small.
super meter, then that means I burned
Exactly.
it somehow, some other way, and it was on me for not holding that.
Oh, damn it, Tragic! You're right. You could just
Yeah.
throw.
Yeah, you
Right,
can.
but,
You
but,
can
but
throw.
can you throw a meaty?
No, not a
trash
meaty.
impact on wake up.
No.
Can you throw that?
I did that to countless people. I meaty drive impacted them and dizzied them as they were waking up.
Yeah, and we're talking about if you have no super meter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
as well.
super
exactly.
meter.
You're out of. You have zero resources.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
It's
Like
game
John
over.
said, like it's one of those situations. Where it's like those people that make combo videos, and it's like a full meter, full ultra, this and that, and it's like, oh, this is optimal damage off of a jump in, and it's just like, okay, this is like, when is that gonna happen, right?
It's
When is that
unrealistic,
situation
yeah.
gonna happen? Yeah,
And,
it's not.
and
a
when it
realistic
does happen, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind because it's gonna be so hype. It's gonna be so hype.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah. I agree. That's really the only like concern I do have is the corner thing. Like you just said, that's really my only concern. But I don't know.
It's your fault for burning out, right?
It is your fault
Yeah,
for burning
exactly.
out, and then you're also putting yourself in the corner. But it's scary, man. I don't know. But
Yeah.
again, it's not like I'm asking for it to be changed or anything, because again,
Yeah.
it's way too early.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It
fine.
is. Yeah, that's what I was
It's
gonna
not.
say.
It's not that big of a deal, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I
you're gonna be in that situation though eventually.
I don't
Yeah.
like having to mash super through block strings. That's really hard for me. And so if that is literally the only defensive option you have in Burnout, I wish doing supers were easier somehow. But I don't like that part of it. I don't know what the answer is, and I'll still play the game if that remains the same. But
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
It's
it's like you guys said, it's early, it's the beta, and like I mean, one thing really good about the panel that we have here is we actually ended up playing all 4 different characters. So Scott was playing Jamie, John was playing Chun Li, Jeff was playing what's her name, Kimberly, and I was playing Guile. So yeah, we definitely. I wanted to talk about your guys' overall character impressions with the characters that you played. So we'll start with Jeff here in terms of like Kimberly. I know it's something that we kind of talked about beforehand before the beta started. Like she seemed to have a lot of tools, seemed to be pretty complicated, and
Yeah.
kind of things that she could do, the setups. So what were your impressions overall with Kimberly? Like positive things, negative things.
Well, how much time do you have, really? I mean, no. So I really didn't start to figure the character out until day 3 of the beta with what I should be doing, how I should be playing her. I was trying to play her like Guy, quite a bit because I played Guy in all of the alpha games, and I played Guy in Street Fighter 4 a little bit. So I was trying to play her like that. But even though she has some of the tools, she doesn't necessarily play like that character. She's very fast. Her jump is kind of it can be somewhat of an awkward angle at times, so it can catch people off guard. And she has a lot of tools. She has a lot of movement tools and a lot of ways to approach. She's not a heavy damage dealer. She can do damage, but she doesn't hit like Rue or Ken. But I think overall, I felt like she's a really good rushdown character, and she's going to rely, I think, heavily on set play because the whole goal with that character should be to push you into the corner and drop bombs on you, and then just mess you up. And she has a lot of tools to do that. Like her EX run, when you don't press a button, hits you, and then you can hit a kick afterward, and it'll knock you way far across the screen. Her EX slide pushes super far. Tatsu pushes super far. So all of these things that she has, her combo enders, they push you far toward the corner. And I think that's the goal of the character. That's why she doesn't have a cancelable low forward attack. That's why she has overheads, multiple overheads with teleport and with her background house. And when I say overhead, I don't necessarily mean like a route toward strong,
Yeah.
but if you're blocking low and if I EX teleport and if I hit roundhouse, you're getting hit by it because it comes down like at a straight angle.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think the character's goal is to mix you up and put you in the corner and drop bombs on you and then mix you up again and just keep doing that. Put you in 2 or 3 different situations in the corner that you have to guess every time on wake up. So as an example, there's a you can do jab strong fierce target combo and not end it with roundhouse. So after the fierce, you get popped up in the air and then she can drop a bomb. And if you do quick get up, which 99% of the time people do, no one wants to lay on the ground. They want to get back in the fight. They want to get up and they want to play. If that happens, you're waking up into bomb and she's +5 or +7. So I didn't really figure that out until like way later on because I wasn't looking at Twitter. I was just playing with my friends. I was trying to figure things out on the fly. I didn't really spend any time in training mode. But you put them in the corner and you put them into a situation where they constantly have to guess high low. So after the bomb, you have strong fierce run slide if you're blocking high and you get hit by the slide and then you get put in the bomb. You have back roundhouse overhead and you get hit by the overhead and then you get put in the bomb. You have EX teleport. You have EX teleport into low forward and you get put in the bomb, or you get roundhouse, which is the other overhead. All of these things she can do because she's plus, or you can just, if you don't have a bomb, you use that time to recharge a bomb because you get the same recovery. It's the same amount of frames to recharge the bomb as it is to throw it, really.
Huh.
So I think the goal of the character is to just mix you up and put you into the corner and then just basically get the bomb on you, and then you do instant air EX boosh and grab, and then it just resets. Because after that, you get toward roundhouse into EX Tatsu if you want to use EX meter, or you get toward roundhouse and then you're back in the bomb situation again. Or you eat throw, and then she throws you on top of the bomb. So now you have to think about throw, you have to think about low, you have to think about high, you have to think about 4 or 5 different approaches once you're in the corner. So my impression of the character is that she wants to put you in the corner, she wants to loop you with bombs, and she wants to just mix you up from anywhere. I think that's why EX teleport is one of her better tools in the game, because she can drop out of the sky and then hit you with crouch forward because you think you're gonna take a high attack instead.
She goes through fireballs too with it.
Yep, she goes through fireballs, and she's also throw invincible too, which is really good.
Okay.
So, and I was trying to incorporate a way to mix it in with DI where you can just kind of like teleport out of DI, but the timing is really weird. So I'm sure because she becomes fully invincible at some point, because she's not even on the screen, she just disappears. So I'm sure at some point you could probably teleport out of DI as well.
Jeff, would you put, if you're playing Kimberly and you're mid screen with her, would you put yourself in burnout to get them in the corner? Is it that powerful that you do that?
If I had 2 bombs, yeah, probably.
Oh, there's another resource management mental stack for you.
Because you can
Nice.
most of her, well, I wouldn't say most of her, but her attacks push you, they knock you down and push you away. She's not really like a, she doesn't stay up in your face and then stay up in your face, after she does something.
Yeah.
Her crouch fierce needs to be nerfed. Absolutely. It's ridiculously strong. I hit Jamie's dive kick like 80% of the time. Most characters jump ins and dive kicks. I hit Jury's dive kick with it too. Just walk up and crouch fierce, and it's just so hard for them to jump at you.
Anti or normal seem very absolute in this game.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that's cool. I honestly wish that I had time to play all you guys, because like I said, I only had that 3 or 4 hour window, and I ended up playing, just random people. So I didn't see any kind of like real crazy stuff playing against Kimberly's. Like it was just like people trying to drive impact me, or they throw a can and like just out, full screen, and I'm just like, what's this gonna do? But briefly, I'll just give my Guile impressions. For me, like, I really felt like I could kind of play Guile just like, old school Street Fighter style Guile. Like I could just down back, fireball war. Like, yeah, you could build, you could parry my fireballs, whatever. but you could still do the traditional kind of like fireball flash kick kind of game and kind of stay back. And then I could kind of pick my spots like when I wanted to press or when I wanted to do other things. Um, like I said, the only longer set that I got, well, no, I got a couple in with like a Ryu, but most of them were pretty even. So I mean, I don't think I was playing like super high level players for the most part. But as things evolved, like I felt, oh, and then also seeing like the videos on Twitter and stuff, like I saw a lot of people like really trying to like learn the offensive Guile and seeing like what he could do with like drive rush and in the corner and stuff like that. And there was definitely a lot of possibilities in terms of offense that I didn't even touch. I mean, that was something I barely touched at the end of the beta, was just to see like, hey, does this work? And it's like, oh, it does work. And like, at that time, like my kind of time was finished up with it.
Benny, I
So
actually had a question for you, real
yeah.
quick about Guile, because I played Guile for maybe like 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Um, but how how do you feel about his jump strong being the most bullshit move in the beta?
Honestly, I don't know if I even used that move because I'm so used to like
Oh,
pressing
dude.
fierces in the air. And like I remember you mentioning that in our chat, and I was just like, I don't know if I even pressed that button one time. Like I didn't even try it. Like,
I
I
don't
just
think any Guile player has ever used medium punch ever in the history
Dude.
of Street Fighter.
Can I?
It's
Well,
really
I
funny.
don't want to steal Benny's thunder here because I have kind of a story to tell about a Guile match that I had and making me want to quit beta afterward. But
yeah.
Benny, you're missing out, dude. That should have been like the crux of your defense.
Like I said, I already had that 3 or 4 hours, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he seemed strong as it was already with like the limited time that I had, and like yeah, I know you briefly told that kind of story where you're just like I couldn't do anything, and he was just running away, playing keep away Guile. I couldn't even get in, and I was just like, I know that could be frustrating for any player, and for somebody seasoned like you are. I mean, if you're getting frustrated by it, like oh man, like the new
It
people are gonna
wasn't
be like oh man.
it wasn't the runaway. It wasn't. I didn't give a shit about him running away. What I cared about was gaining ground on him and then getting hit by jump strong, because who needs to flash kick when you have jump strong, and then getting pushed to the other side of the screen.
Oh, yeah,
So
like I said, I didn't touch that at all. So I mean, yeah, if the beta opens up anytime soon, I'll have to test and see if that's as good as you say it is, or
Capcom,
you
please
know.
nerf. Capcom, please.
One thing about Guile too is that and this is actually has little to do with Guile, but more to do with the system, is that I didn't know about the different ways to tech a throw. Or not tech a throw, sorry, to tech a wake up in this game. So like you can back tech and you can neutral tech. And I just found myself constantly back teching against Guile, and that would constantly set me back and screw me over. But apparently to neutral tech you just hold down or hold down or down back, you don't press any buttons. And
Oh,
then
okay.
if you press any buttons whatsoever, it'll cause you to back roll, and I don't like that. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was tapping like Street Fighter 3. That's what I
yeah,
was doing.
tapping gives you the neutral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right, so Scott, you were playing Jamie.
Yep.
I know initially like you were kind of, you know, what was it? I think John said that you had 10 good normals, and I remember when we were talking about that at work, you were kind of just like, "What? What are
Yeah,
you
I don't,
talking
I don't, I
about?"
don't believe that. I don't believe that. But no, his normals are good though. Yeah, Jamie's cool, man. I had a lot of fun with him. It's just, yeah, he's definitely not easy because of the resource management and trying to juggle all of his moves. Trying to figure out like, okay, trying to remember like, okay, how many drinks do I have to do to get this move? And there was a lot of situations where like I go for a combo and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't have enough drinks.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot to take in because it's definitely not something I'm used to. Like I didn't play like Chun Li and Virtua Fighter and stuff like that, which is like the same thing. But and that having to give up any type of momentum to drink. Like if you do as Rekka's to end in the drink, you're pretty much -1 on that, even like in the corner. So you have to like give up some momentum in order to get those drinks in. And then there are some cases where like Jeff, every time you try to drink, he just like EX run slide. I'm like, damn it. Even though I'm like full straight, even like he would clip me off that. And so yeah, there was I think when he has no drinks, though, I'm like, oh man, I felt like he was kind of limited, but I just had to get used to him. He's got good anti-air, he's got good DP, he's got his crouch fierce is also kind of like Kimberly's. But I always use DP for whatever reason. His corner game is pretty good. Once you get like, I was learning like after his like regular records, you could get a lot of cool like meaty setups. Like you do is like his palm thrust is like super negative, but after a record, you just do it, you get like a plus, you get plus on a meaty palm thrust, which is really cool. Like if I do like an EX palm thrust meaty, I'm like +7 or +8. It was kind of ridiculous, even though it cost me beater. But yeah, but he's a lot of fun. It was just, I mean, dude, even when he gets 3 drinks, he gets a command grab. I didn't really get a chance to like really experiment with it too much because I'm not thinking about it.
I had one quick question.
It was just trying to figure out like, it was just a lot of like just juggling around like how many drinks do I got and like what's my routes, you know, and that was the difficult part. But it's just something that it's going to take time to figure out and get used to, because obviously 3 days wasn't enough.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So no, I had a quick question about that. So he doesn't start with any drinks at all, right?
Right.
None at all. So like, I remember in Street Fighter 4, like Hakan like had a similar mechanic, right, with the oil.
Right.
And then he got buffed where he started with oil. Do you think that it would be too strong to start with 1 drink?
Yeah, because 1 drink, all he really gets is he gets his like Yun target combo, which is the light punch, light kick, medium punch. I don't think he gets anything else off of level 1.
Does his record improve?
Yeah.
No. They're the same. The frame data is still the same. It's not until he's installed at level 4, where because all of his records, the punch ones, are all -3 on block or -6 on block, and then when you're installed, they become -3. They become safe.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So like, you obviously the goal is to get to level 4, but sometimes, man, especially if your opponent is bullying you hard, it's really hard to get to that level. And I mean, you got level 2 install or level 2 super to get the install, but it's temporary.
Okay.
And you'll see the meter, it'll go down, but you still have the drinks and something. But man, shortly after, you lose all your drinks. So let's say I built up 2 drinks in the middle of the round naturally.
Yeah.
I just drink out of my gourd. And then I'm like, man, I really need to get to level 4. So I pop a level 2 install super. It'll put me at 4, but once it runs out, I'll go back to 0. It won't take me back to this. Yeah, so that I think that's a little rough. I think it should go back to your current drink level.
Wow,
I can see that. Yeah.
So after a while I stopped doing it, but at the same time, like you do like 4 heavy kick in the level 2, man, you're like super plus on that. So you can actually get like some decent confirms, like if you see that heavy kick hit during the freeze frames. And you
we know
wild stuff. Yeah. Remember, I would do that. Yeah, he would do like super, and then I would just super right back or something like that.
You fucker.
Yeah. So Travis, I was asking about his hair down. That's when you actually get all 4 of your drinks, and that's the difference too. When you do your level 2 install, his hair doesn't come out, even though I'm still at level 4.
That's interesting.
So there's a difference.
So he changes physical appearance. Yeah.
So so he's a little tough to manage, but I think he's fine. Otherwise, I thought he's good. I mean, as long as he's got some anti-airs and all that. I didn't take advantage of his standing roundhouse enough, but I felt like I was getting a little frustrated because I remember I was playing you guys, and you guys would just like hit me out of it every time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man. And I noticed, I was looking at the frame down, like I noticed that like Kimberly and Chun, their moves were just a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And maybe that's for the best. I don't know.
Does he have a 4-framer, Scott?
He does. I mean, yeah. I noticed like Chun, like almost all of her lights are 4-frame except for like 1, maybe.
Yep.
Him, he's got like 2 of them are 4 frames, like the other ones are like 5 frames. I think he's got more 5 than 4s.
Got it.
Okay.
And that is light attacks. They're very specific. Like crouch light kick, you can't cancel it. You can't do nothing with it. There's no it's kind of sucks.
Oh, that was the dance move, right?
And no, standing light kick is the dance move.
Oh,
when you do it, but it doesn't have a lot of range. So yeah,
so kind of a weird button.
Yeah, it's a little weird with his lights. But yeah, he's fun. And that on top of that, to add to that, there's certain moves that I also open up in the drinks that I could not figure out how to use. Like he's got one that's back fierce, back roundhouse, but they don't combo. And they're insanely negative. And then also when you get the 4 drinks, when you do the forward roundhouse, the step kick, you press back heavy kick and he goes to that stagger where he walks back. And during then you have like these different moves, but they're all insanely negative.
Okay.
And then one of them puts you into a drink. And I'm like, well, why do I need the drink? I'm already at 4.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, I don't understand the point of this. I was
Yeah.
like, so there were some moves where I'm like, I don't understand its use. I couldn't figure it out.
Are there any benefits to drinking after level 4?
I think only if you use the install super. I think you have to keep drinking in order to keep it.
Keep
but
that timer up.
I never got to experiment with it. I never got to experiment because there's no tell when you're going to run out of those drinks when you use the install super.
Nom in the chat
Nom's-
says drinking at level 4 recovers your drive bar. Okay. There's
I didn't know that. Cool. See, I don't even think I realized that.
That's cool.
Okay.
Well, definitely a lot unexplored. Like
yeah, he was a complicated character, but he was fun to use though.
Nice. And then finally, John, you were playing Chun Li. What were your overall impressions? Like I said, like I remember going in, like you were kind of skeptical, and then like I think towards the end of the weekend, you were gushing about a lot of stuff, and you're just like, oh man.
yeah. Like I'm quick to like use 2022 internet terminology, which is, this character is the most broken fighting game character ever. I was quick to say, like, I think she might be one of the best characters in the beta, despite not having played any of the other characters. But I can tell you that she feels really good as some, like, in my hands at least. I've played Chun in various fighting games. I've actually, in the past couple of years, I've learned 3 different games at a surface level. I've learned Chun Li 3 different games, and so she feels like an amalgamation of like Alpha 2, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Third Strike, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. Like she's got bits of everything in there. Like her normals are admittedly, I don't think that her normals are as oppressive relative to the rest of the cast compared to 5. Like 5, that was her deal. She just had really good normals. And 6, I think she's got serviceable normals. Like she's got that low forward. Low forward is absolutely fantastic. I think you need a good low forward in this game.
It's really good.
Yeah, forward medium punch being cancelable. That's what gave me those Cross Tekken vibes, and that's my drive rush starter usually. And then when people think of Chun, they think of stand heavy punch a lot. Look at that! Oh, on the screen just now, I did a full screen conversion off a fireball.
That's nasty.
I saw it. Yeah.
So cool. But yeah, when you think of Chun, you think of stand fierce a lot, right? But I actually found that it was extremely slow, and I got beat out of it a lot. So it seems like it's. Sorry.
You have to worry about drive impact too.
Yeah,
you can't do anything after it.
So I think there's something cool with Chun. Like that's the other thing is she's so hard with the stance. Where I think I could go stand fierce, cancel into stance, and then the stance actually ducks under the drive impact.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So then I get a launcher combo. I like the whole drive impact whiffs. I just don't know how to do that yet. It's so like it's a lot to react to. Her fireball is amazing. I am. Like again, I'm using like modern internet terminology here when I think her fireball is one of the best in the game. It's so good.
You can't block EX when you're standing like a quarter screen away. Like it's so hard to walk and block that thing because it comes out really fast.
That. It was so fast.
Yeah, it's Unibeam. It's Iron Man's Unibeam. Her DP is absolutely amazing. It complements that fireball really well.
Yeah, let's talk about that DP, John.
That's what I was gonna say.
How do you execute that DP on a leverless?
So the DP is the down kick motion, right? So that means it dumps all the baggage of having to charge, which means I can mash it during strings. Because it's down, it doesn't matter what side I'm on. So I just hit down and 2 and K over and over and over again. And then because I'm playing on hitbox, I'm literally just mashing on it.
Hey, cool. I like that. That looks kind of sick there. It was just floating there. Like, was that some tech I didn't see, man? Just holding the fireball in front of me like that?
It was a YRC, yeah. For the audio folks on the stream just now, we had some footage where the fireball froze mid-screen because of a lag issue.
But yeah, that down, man. I'll just say, like, I'm not a fan of it just because, like, not because you're on a leverless or anything. It's just because it doesn't matter about cross-ups. You can't really get around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there another character in the game that has a simple input motion on a regular arcade stick style layout? You know what I mean?
So down is like Ryu has a down move, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not
it
an
charges
anti-air.
his
It's not
fireball.
a DP.
Right. That's
yeah.
what I. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a special move that
Mhm.
she has that is meant for offense and defense. It's not a charge move where you're holding like a Denjin or
Yep.
in Kimberly's case, her down punch is throwing the bomb. But yeah,
It's weird. It's just a weird choice.
yeah, it's a weird choice for them to give that to her, and make it as good as it is.
Yeah, no, like I think that if you like, I named a bunch of different games where Chun was present in those games and she was good,
Yeah.
and she was top tier in many of those. But even then, her weakness was always an anti-air, and then they
It was
gave her an
true.
anti.
Oh yeah, they definitely gave
Not
her
in
one.
not in Alpha 3X mode. She's
fair
king
enough.
of anti-airs in that one. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But John, how would you feel if they changed that to flash kick
dragon-
motion
or DP.
or DP motion? Would you be okay with that?
I would be okay if they changed it to a DP. I would not be okay if they changed it to a flash kick.
That's
'Cause
fair.
that's
I
traditional,
would rather a
yeah.
DP if I was if
I-
I was a Chun player, I'd rather be DP.
I think that is a very likely outcome. However, like if you were to talk to some people, they think down is harder than DP sometimes, and there are actual benefits to being able to
well,
mash
it
DP.
is harder when you're on a stick or a pad. It's not as
Oh,
natural.
yeah,
When you're on a leverless, yeah, obviously, but when
Not if
you're
you're
on,
mashing though.
yeah, because I mean,
No,
I-
actually, it is
that's
hard
legit,
because
yeah.
you might get down back instead, and then it cancels your input, and you might get a crouching forward instead. Like
Mike,
you
it's
actually have to do a
doesn't-
raw down.
My experience with down was when I was playing Marvel Infinite and using Strider.
Yep.
Because he uses lots of down, and you use
Mhm.
zero, of course, and it was the same thing. And man, I couldn't pop off downs quick enough
Mhm.
on a stick, but I'm like, man, on a hitbox or something, man, this is like a no brainer.
So the other
know?
the other downside of that motion compared to a dragon punch motion is that a dragon punch you can do it from crouching, right? You can use the shortcut and go down, back, down, forward, down, back, right? And so that means
Sure.
when someone's jumping at you, you can do a crouching hitbox and you won't get hit. If
You
I'm
have to
doing
stand.
down, I have to stand up because I have to return to neutral and then do down.
Yeah, that's fair. Tragic was bringing walk forward DP seems easier to walk forward down, which is probably
Unless
true
you're
for
on
that.
hitbox. If you're on
Unless you're
hitbox,
on
it's
hitbox, I
dumb.
don't think it matters. Yeah,
Yeah.
because your inputs are so clean, and
mean-
and this isn't a knock against leverless or anything, so it's not about
Totally,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Man, it puts a sour taste in my mouth.
Totally,
when I
yeah.
went
And
down. But
to,
I mean,
to be
if-
clear,
if-
you
if
guys
it
are the
stays, it
main
stays.
receivers of that.
Yeah. Let me walk forward flash kick. Give me that duck walk back.
I mean, if it stays, it stays. It's not going to ruin me or anything. But it's just like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
man.
So-
Like, I just wonder why they made hers down, and it's just her.
What I think they wanted to do, and like I don't know if this is PC or not, but like Chun Li's the female character in the fighting. She's the female lead in Street Fighter. That means
That's right.
a lot of casual players are gonna play her. Either her or Cammy, right? Cammy's already easy. They needed to make Chun Li easy, but they also wanted to give her some depth, and so she can play a fireball DP game in this game, and like I actually think she can play Shoto. I think she can zone better than Guile in a lot of ways.
Oh
She
no,
won't-
it's like playing Guile. It is like playing against Guile.
but I don't have a flash kick. I have a dragon. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
dumb.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Just to go run through the rest of my list real quick before, because I know we always spend a lot of time on the
Sorry.
DP.
sorry
Hazanshu
about
is great. Hazanshu is anti-fireball. It's fast. People are having hard times reacting to it, but as they got used to it, I started getting DP'd and stuff. I can throw Hail Marys with EX and get a ground bounce to get big damage because it hits all of them hit overhead. On punish counter, you get 50% damage. No lie there. Lightning legs is pretty good. I didn't find this out until the beta ended, but heavy kick legs is safe. I don't know why. That's safe, and it combos on punish counter. EX is safe too, which is that's cool. You burn drive. So I get a lot of like walk forward, low forward stuff. Walk forward, low forward, EX legs. Walk forward, low forward legs, stuff like that. Stance is the big part about her. That's the new part where you can cancel. Stance isn't even considered a special move. It's considered a command normal. And so the moves that you can cancel to are different. So like Stand Fierce is not special cancelable, but it is stance cancelable. And so like I have a lot of, you have to kind of memorize that stuff. On top of that, every time you cancel into it, it's hella negative. So people are mashing through it. Everybody's predisposed to mash through in this game because you're already negative on everything. So it's not useful yet, but it's good for meaties and stuff, and it requires a lot of technical setup. So the big problem with the stance is that a lot of her high damage combos, the damage combos that she needs to keep up with the rest of the cast,
Are locked behind the stance, right?
correct.
Mhm.
They're all
Yeah.
locked behind the stance. And so I'm day 2 into the beta and I'm not pulling any of that stuff off. But day 3 I was, and I felt like a badass. It was great. So it felt like that gap for damage actually dropped as time went on. And so I went from being like, yeah, she's got all the options, but she's not consistent, to no, this character's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, you had to. It took you a little bit to figure them out, just like it did with me and Kimberly. Because when you have so many options, you get overloaded, and
Yep.
and sometimes it's hard to kind of figure out where you should be going on any specific route.
It's more difficult in a new game too, because you could be doing those options and they could be bad options, but you won't know because your opponent doesn't know how to punish them yet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Like Jamie's Rekka, even
like
though it's
Jamie's
-6,
Rekka. Yeah, I didn't know that
couldn't
until Scott
punish
told me. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't punish it, even though
so-
it's -6.
Overall, my impressions for Chun are that she is really good. I'm not sure if she's the best, but she's really good. But she's also extremely difficult to play. Probably the hardest character in my opinion. But who knows?
Yeah.
I don't.
I
the sky's the limit.
think it depends on how you play her, because like, I mean, for the most part you're playing her without using stance, and then I felt like, okay, she's just playing her like typical Chun, and
Yeah.
it worked.
Mhm.
You can
I
play
think
Fireball
it,
DP.
I think it's as difficult as you want to make it with her. Like if
Mhm.
you really want to incorporate the stances, then she becomes a more difficult, more technical character. But if you decide not to play that style, I think she's still, and keep it more simple, I think she's still very effective.
Yeah, it's just the question about whether or not it's better to play Guile at that point, and I don't. That's going to be dependent on everyone's point of view.
Yeah.
As long as jump strong remains the same, you should play Guile
Yeah.
or stand forward. Stand forward,
Yeah.
jump strong, take your pick.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of Chun Li, real quick. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was thinking about the down input and like how good John was talking about it. And I mean, yeah, my thing too was just like she is the face of like Street Fighter, like Ryu and Chun Li, right? And like, I mean, we started to see some crazy stuff with Ryu. Like, I mean, whether or not that stuff like new people can do, I mean, I don't know, but it's something that a lot of people are like, those are people that are characters you recognize, right? Like, I always dread the time that I'm gonna run into some kid that goes to school with my kids and like, hey, that's that guy in the gi from Fortnite, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna throw him through a window or something. And I'm like, get out of here, bro. You know what I mean? Like that's the last thing I want to hear from somebody. But those are the characters that they put in everything, right? Whether it's Monster Hunter, whether it's like I said, Fortnite. Those are the two characters you'll see prominently. So like I could definitely see them trying to make certain things easier for her. Because there's going to be a natural gravitation to her for like the female players. Like, oh, this is the character that I see. Oh, how do I do this? Oh, I can do this up kick move, and because the DP motions, the flash kick motions, like that's something foreign to new people. For us, it's nothing, but to new people, it's just like, oh, down this. Oh, I could do this cool move, right? So that's kind of just like my impression of that, and that's the first thing I thought of too.
I think another like big like meta point about all the characters that we've talked about here is we've all made the point that, hey, we're negative on a lot of things, but in Burnout, that adds 4 frames of block stun to every move. And so like a lot of the stuff that I complain about being negative on, I'm like, oh, I'm positive in Burnout and I can go ham on all that stance stuff that I have, like all the stuff that Jamie has to abuse. Like Jamie's stand fierce becomes positive, so you could theoretically just loop that, like. Yeah. Burnout changes our characters drastically too, and we didn't get past 3 days of play to really explore that, I think.
Yeah.
So I know.
I think that's one of the. Oh, sorry, Benny. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's one of the things that they accounted for in the training, wasn't it? Like being able to practice burnout situations or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't run through. I only ran through the drive impact one, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I know John kind of wanted to end things here with a tier list game. Like I don't know how much, we don't have a ton of time left, but I mean, if he's, I don't know, I don't even know what he wanted to do with that.
Yeah, how about this? Everybody name their top 1 and their top bottom. Or top 1 and top last.
I would excuse myself from that just because I've only got that 3 hours, so it's just like
You're excusing yourself because you played the character that was on the top. That's why. You're just trying to downplay. No, yeah, okay. So how about Jeff? Do you want to go first? Best character, worst character in the beta?
Well, I had pretty limited experience with playing. Well, no, I guess I played against everyone. I can tell you that I got blown up the most by Rue because of his damage, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's top. The character with the most tools that I saw that really like kept me thinking the entire time was Jury, because she's constantly moving. She has multiple ways to approach. She has ways of locking you down that you really kind of have a hard time getting out of the corner with. She has a really far-reaching normals and crouch moves too. So I don't know. I mean, that character was probably the most well-rounded to me with all the right tools from what I saw. Damage-wise, it was definitely Rue. I had this one guy hit me with a 5-hit combo that did 40% with just one drive rush. So no super, by the way.
I was gonna say real quick, did you play any of the locals that play Jury? Because I know that somebody like Rocknin wanted to play Jelani, and then I think what's his name? Hedrick, Black Excellence. I think he goes by a different name online, but he played Jury too.
Yeah, I didn't get to play anyone other than you guys, and then the time that I spent in ranked was a couple of hours. But the juries that I ran into in ranked, I think I beat one of them and lost to like 3. So
it's hard when you play against a Jury player on a beta like this with random lottery, because you might just get somebody who really likes feet.
That's true. And you never know how they're going to play when they're crazy like that.
Okay, hey Scott, who do you like? Who's the best in the beta in your opinion?
I think Guile. I think it's a no-brainer that Guile's the best. Just seeing everything you do, all the anti-airs, the jump medium punch, the flash kick range is crazy.
It's half screen, dude.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
The range on that move is crazier than the stupid HD remix Guile flash kick where he moves forward.
Yeah,
like it's even crazier than that. Like
I said it. I said
you
it was
want
like
a fireball. You want a fireball from like 3/4 of the way to the screen.
Yeah.
I'll flash kick right through that. And it's crazy. Yeah, so and then his install super with the sonic booms, those are obviously going to be really good. I mean, he's rock solid for what I've seen so far. And then Jury would be right behind. I think Jury is I had the most problems with Jury, but that's also because I played her way more than I did Guile. And I got wrecked by her. The worst, I would probably just default to probably Luke.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that no one was really playing him. And just looking at the frame data, he's got nothing.
Yeah. He's
got nothing. But then again, I don't know his mechanics. There might be reasons behind that, I don't really know anything about him. So I'm just putting him default at the end just because I don't know anything about him.
Got it.
Keep in mind, I never played Street Fighter V when he got introduced, so
yeah, the problem with Luke, I think, is if you play him like in Street Fighter V, like it's a lot of like multi-string attacks and then like into safe pressure, but drive impact blows all that up, and that's the hot stuff right now. So I don't think a lot of Luke players had a good time with that. Like you go into heavy knuckle or something, right, and you get plus frames, but drive impact kills that. So
yeah. And I like to say honorable mention to Ken, because I think he's like the fucking coolest character in this game. With all of his stuff, man.
Yeah.
He's like a completely different character. I think he's just the coolest character in this game. I love what they did with him. But yeah, I just want to bring that
up. Hey Jeff, sorry. I moved to Scott before we got to your worst character. Who was your worst?
I blew through any Luke that I played like nothing, I would probably put him at the bottom, but maybe, you're right. If he doesn't play like Street Fighter V Luke, and if people are trying to play him like that, and that's not going to be an optimal situation for them. So yeah.
Okay. For me, like I would put, I'm in the same boat as you guys, where it was a tie between Guile and Ryu, just because those are the most non-volatile, or they're explosive characters, and they're also consistent characters because they're pretty straightforward. And Luke was also my bottom pick as well, for the same reasons. Like I just like a very common thing that Luke would do in not common, but a tactic Luke would do in Street Fighter V is block string into heavy knuckle, charge it, and then B+ afterwards and continuous pressure. None of that stuff works in this game. So I can go back and play Chun like how I'd play Third Strike, or I could play Chun like how I'd play Cross Tekken or something, right? But Luke, you got no baseline. So you got to figure that out from the ground up. Kind of like, but even for Kimberly, you were like, well, guys kind of like this. I have a baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. They have similar styles and similar moves, but they're not quite really what you imagine them to be, I guess,
Sure.
based on the other character stereotype.
Fair enough. And then Benny, did you have an opinion, or did you want to abstain from this, given your time? The time.
No, I would abstain. I mean, I think
Sure.
I do agree that I think Guile is really good. I mean, very unexplored. I mean, if Crouching Strong is as good as Jeff says it is, then like, I mean, yeah, I've got
Jump Strong.
I've got even more tools, and I felt, Jump Strong. Like I felt good as it was just playing like standard Guile. So it's like if there's more at his disposal in terms of like keeping people out and the no-fly zone or keeping people grounded, like I could see that being a real pain in the ass for a lot of people.
Yeah, and stealth brag. I won't name this person, but I never played Guile. I didn't touch Guile at all. I went into ranked as my first time playing Guile, ran into a named player, and perfected him with Guile while he was just sitting there trying to get around my bullshit Jump Strong that I saw someone else do, and boom traps. That was it.
An unnamed SoCal OG that's been relevant for a while.
Yeah.
He still plays Street Fighter 5.
Yeah. Jump Strong.
Nice.
I actually have notes here. One of my notes is can't jump on Guile because he has 6 options. And I have stand forward, jump strong, and in parentheses I have F this button, crouch fierce, boom, flash kick. Because you can actually walk backward and throw sonic booms at people like you can in Street Fighter 2. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
I didn't even
man.
try standing forward. Like like
dude, it's so good.
I did the typical flash kick and I did the crouch fierce. And crouch fierce was good too.
You don't need flash kick. You have crouch fierce, jump strong, and stand forward. That's really all that you need with Guile. You really don't even need to charge flash kick unless you want to do half screen flash kicks.
Yeah, if you want to be
Fireball Wars?
Yeah.
Fireball Wars, we're gonna throw that out the window too. Here's a flash kick.
Yeah.
But what you get, Betty. We spent a good portion of the Chun talk hearing all about how Chun was busted. Now we're going in on Guile.
I will say though, I do want to say though, I think every character was pretty good though, just because of the system. The system mechanics allowed everybody to do things.
Do you wonder if we might even be a little homogenized? Like everybody seems to have one big button and then one low forward and a whiff punish drive rush. Like everyone's kind of playing the same way in a way, right?
I think that's just because it's no one knows how to play yet.
Oh yeah.
And there's still a little bit of that in the frame data. It seems like everybody's like medium punches +1, type stuff. So there's still a little bit of manufactured gameplay probably in there a little bit. But I think it's really going to come down to that drive rush, I think, and the parry. That's going to really differentiate a lot of the combo choices and just offensive play, and then parries with the defensive play.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think as soon as people figure out how the juggle point system works with being able to use the manual drive rush and resetting the juggle points in the middle of the combo and how that works, I think that's gonna change quite a bit of the game. Because if you think about it, so we were talking about that combo earlier, where Guile throws a sonic boom, any manual drive rush behind it, right?
Yeah.
And they try neutral jump, and they get crouch fierce. So now they're in punish counter state, right? So he can juggle after that because punish counter puts you, when you're in the air, it puts you in juggle state so you can hit them. However, more manual drive rushes can be fit into that combo to keep resetting the juggle from what I've seen. Like Kimberly can do it over and over with crouch fierce when normally what will happen is they'll fall through it. But the manual drive rush allows you to juggle things that you can't normally juggle out of the air, like Ruse crouching forward. They fall on it and they get juggled by it. So once that happens and people start stringing those together, you'll probably see like 3 and 4 manual drive rushes in one combo.
Or you're going to see a couple of those, and then on the third or fourth one, and then you're like, I'm going to go for
super.
I'm going to hit. I'm going to go with like a standing normal and cause a restand, and go for a mix up.
Yeah, I I saw Rue do that. He
Yeah.
hit someone in the corner. I think it was with charged engine, and then did drive rush and hit him with crouch fierce as they were falling, and they basically got
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
a restand situation.
Right. So we're gonna see combo potential, and then we're gonna see like some mix up shenanigans with it. We're gonna see lots of things. So I think that's where the differentiator is gonna be, is with the drive rush.
I think this will make a really fun time capsule for the future. We'll come back and revisit this a year after Street Fighter 6 has been released and be like,
Or
oh,
after
man.
the next beta. Or after the next
Yeah,
beta.
next
Oh,
beta,
yeah.
release,
That's cool.
release
Yeah.
week, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So that was my game. I think the last section that we have on here is about concerns and criticisms, but I think we've kind of rolled through a lot of those throughout the show too.
Yeah, it's kind of been all over the place.
The only criticism that we didn't talk about was I kind of just wanted to bring up the beta selection process.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, we don't have to talk about it right now.
I do.
Okay. Well, my opinion was I was extremely disappointed, and for multiple reasons, but
The bots.
well, that was the majority of it, because people are making money, by charging people to get into a beta that they probably would have been able to get into if the beta selection process was a little bit better and not so lottery random.
Yeah, that's one
because-
lottery I didn't win.
Yeah, there you go, Benny. Yeah. So because I think honestly there were probably a lot of deserving people out there that should have gotten into the beta but didn't, and maybe someone gave them a key and they were able to get in anyway or something, I don't know. But if Capcom is honestly looking at a beta as, from a software engineering perspective, as a closed test to try and help people or help them find bugs and figure out how to improve their system, you can't just invite random people.
Yeah.
Because they're going to ignore the feedback process. They're not going to deliver clear and concise feedback, or they're going to deliver the wrong feedback because
Right.
they didn't even know what they were testing for to begin with.
Yep.
You need people to dissect all of the game mechanics and deliver that information out to not only Capcom, but like to the internet at large. And you need people who are going to be honest about the game and want the game to be successful, and not necessarily just looking to smash people with DI and with their Guile jump strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they need to do better, I think, with that next time.
I think it's important to underscore the reasoning for doing a beta, like you said, Jeff. But my belief is that they already did all that stuff, and this is just a
Marketing.
Yeah, this is a marketing tactic, right? And this is a way to gauge pre-orders. So now they don't have to buy all the pre-order data from GameStop or Best Buy or something.
I agree.
But they can't do that, John. They can't. Sorry for interrupting, but they can't do that if people are selling keys, because it's going to skew those numbers.
No, they can look at the applications. Doesn't matter who actually got into the beta or not. They can just be like, who wanted to get into this beta? That's how many.
Okay.
That's how many copies.
Yeah,
we can anticipate selling.
because you buy the key off secondhand, right? That means you want it, and you're willing to pay for it.
They could just look at the number of logins too.
That's the data they want. I think it was just the fact is like, oh, okay. On top of that, we got that data, but on top of that, we learned that our servers can handle this, and that was just a side effect of the marketing.
Yeah,
Sure.
So, but yeah, it definitely was. It definitely did suck, because also they're asking for feedback, but it's only from people that actually got the codes legit.
Yeah, and it was
Like,
limited to
bought
like
it, you
4,000 characters or something.
Yeah, and if you got, I don't like that. I don't know. I think Guilty Gear should have. It was like how Guilty Gear did it. I like how they had their process, man. They had a huge survey, lots of stuff. It was super detailed. I was actually kind of surprised they didn't open up the beta to more people.
Me too. I was convinced that they were going to start giving away codes during TwitchCon. Specifically during TwitchCon. Maybe they gave codes to everybody who broke their back in the ball pit at TwitchCon.
Oh, geez. Good Lord. That was terrible. But yeah, I think they're going to have another beta, and I think the next one's going to be completely open, and maybe that's when they're going to put in any type of feedback.
Sure.
Like detailed feedback, that's what I'm hoping, because I want this game to come out on launch ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's cover all of our loose ends, and just have not. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have a Street Fighter 5 on our hands. That's clear as day.
Yeah,
but
this is better than Street Fighter 5
already. Yeah, this is already more feature rich than Street Fighter 5. That's sad, but Yeah, I just don't want to give people like stupid excuses to like shit on the game.
Yep.
You know,
I haven't found a reason to do that yet.
not yet.
So-
My only issues was with the battle hub and like just the wait queue. I hated how it was implemented. I could stand it.
I think one thing does need to get fixed before launch, and it's the menus are really confusing. And I can tell that they tried.
Oh, with
But,
like
like-
training mode, like with training
No,
mode. Or what?
even
Yeah.
the battle settings,
battle
stuff like
settings.
Oh,
What battle settings are?
the controls.
Yeah. Or anything in the battle hub, like hitting light punch to pull up the ranked menu. There's no prompt whatsoever to show you any of that stuff. And I get it; it's a beta, so maybe there's going to be a tutorial and stuff. And that guy who looks like the guy from Fifth Element is going to teach you all that stuff. But like the menus
fighter
are
profile.
really clunky.
But it's still good feedback to give, regardless, because maybe they weren't thinking of that.
Like every like live service game right now is adhering to that Overwatch style of menu where you show your character at the front, and then you have play, and then your own inventory of shit, and then whatever else like settings and stuff. Right? That's how like Rumbleverse is doing that. Multiversus is doing that. Like if they're gonna go do that live service route, like Street Fighter V. One of their big problems is that they had all these awesome features, and all of them were buried under the shitty menu system that nobody ever paid any attention to. There's a tournament mode in Street Fighter V that nobody knows about. There's a really robust replay system in Street Fighter V. There's metrics around what moves you use in a match, all in your fighter profile. None of that shit's easily found, and I think that same problem's in 6 right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, it took me a while to find fighter profile outside of the menu because it's basically 2 separate menus, right? It's the X button and then the start button. And you can't get to the fighter profile from the start menu that I was able to find.
Yeah.
So.
And there needs to be a better descriptor, like when you want to fast travel to another part of the map. It tells you, it gives you a list of the places you can go, but it doesn't say like what are those places, like what are they for?
Yeah,
for buying devil costumes, dude, and skirts and stuff. And
did you guys try any of the extreme battle stuff?
I
No,
did
I
not.
skipped
I did
it.
not. Every time
I
I
forgot
wanted
about
to,
that
there
stuff.
was no one over there.
I
So-
feel like that's like fuel for you old guys in particular. Not the extreme battle, but
'cause
the
I mean, it
retro
doesn't-
stuff.
'cause
I did play ST.
I did
Yeah, I
play a
played
little
ST.
ST.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh,
I think it would be cool, like if they really wanted to keep people in the Street Fighter 6 ecosystem. I think it'd be cool if they just had a corner where you could just play retro games and they're online playable. That'd be kind of
Mhm. Yeah, the online playable for the retro games.
like,
is
I'm going to
great.
take a break from playing 6. I'm just going to walk over here and see who's playing like Alpha 2 or something like that and go play some people. I think that'd be really sick
Yeah, that'd be cool.
because they could just integrate Capcom Fighting Collection into it, which actually was pretty damn good. And or something, but I know that's also that's a business thing, with that's just
I feel like if I bought Capcom Fighting Collection and then it wound up in Street Fighter 6, I'd be pissed.
You'd feel robbed.
Yeah.
I know. I get it. That's fair. Maybe it's something they do like a year down the road or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, the producer's the same for both games, so
Right,
it
yeah,
actually
it was
seems
in-
really likely still.
It was all done in house, and I don't know, man. I think that'd be really cool. A cool way you pay for it, or even not. Maybe it's free. I don't know. Like maybe you're down the road, and it's just a way to keep you in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Obviously they want to do games as a service, and I think that's a way to do it.
Got it.
I think that'd be pretty neat.
Well, for criticisms, Benny, do you want to wrap us up and then we can go on our merry way for the end of the show here?
I don't really have any criticisms. Like I said, just limited time. Like I definitely wanted to get more time. Like I kind of played, just here and there. I think my main criticism is just really the menu system. Like I didn't like the default to modern controls. Like
Yeah, that got me
even
too.
in the training mode, like I had trouble getting. I didn't even get the second controller working. Like that's how much limited time I had. I was trying to get my son to play with me, and then
I heard that a
we
couple
couldn't-
times.
We couldn't get the second controller working, and then like when I switched, I was trying to switch.
And the
characters
options
and
there,
just, like,
too.
control. Yeah, exactly. It was like set to dummy, and it was like everything's there. It was mainly that. It was more like just quality of life, like menu HUD kind of stuff. I didn't even venture into like the little side areas like you guys even mentioned. Like I just didn't have time to do it at all. But
I bought hella clothes for my character, dude.
I looked at the store, but then I was just like, I didn't have enough, and I was just like, oh, I'll come back, and then I never did.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like what they're going to DLC at us, what they're going to throw at us with DLC.
Yeah.
in there.
Costumes.
But I wonder if they're going to do more than that.
I wonder if they're gonna change the do things to the character creation, because I mean I'm sure we all saw like
Yeah.
the Twitter ones where it was just like
Oh,
you know
yeah.
his arms were like huge and he's got no legs, or the one that had Chun Li's
So
thighs
buff.
and like a child's upper
Can
body.
Can I just say one thing I thought was really cool that none of the other games do? I like how you don't have to play on the same background as the other player.
Oh,
yeah, that was great.
Oh,
I thought that was
so
great,
good.
and I think
Same
that's
stage.
something maybe they could throw in, like they could somehow manage to squeeze in like actual like old school 2D backgrounds and just retrofit it in there, and then I could play those as DLC.
Yeah.
Like give me like a Champion Edition Ryu stage or something like that. Like it's actually the same thing. They just somehow work it in there. Stuff like that, I think would be cool stuff.
If
Yeah.
I could go a little grand here, like we're in an age in media where everything is nostalgia bait, and so like if there was a
Yeah.
time to do that, it'd be right now. It'd be with this
Yeah.
game, Street Fighter 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
dude.
guys for joining us on our podcast here and joining us on the Street Fighter 6 beta panel. I think we'll be doing more of these throughout the betas, and honestly, there's still so much more to talk about Street Fighter 6.
Yeah,
so
dude, I have
imagine.
like notes upon notes upon notes of stuff. So
So I bet we'll have you guys back on to talk more Street Fighter 6 at a later date for sure.
thanks for having me, fellas.
Cheers.
Yeah. Same here.
Thumbs up, soldier.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
just once again, like whenever we go live, which is Tuesdays now, or as of right now, is twitch.tv/Spiral Series at 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. You can find us on YouTube with the VODs at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and then on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Absolute Guard. And then if you want to follow the Twitter account, it's absolute_guard. We're trying to put out just, social media content, clips here and there. So if you can give that a follow, retweet, like, whatever. Trying to grow things here. We kind of have a surprise guest for next week. That's to say that I don't have anybody right now, but I'm working on it. So
Surprise.
Very cool. And then Saber and Lukesballs, any shout outs you want to give? How do we reach you? How do we find you?
I mean, you could just find me on Twitter, Saber_AZ. I mean, other
just
than
look for
that,
look for the retro stuff. Look for the high
find me,
refresh ones
or you
first.
can high refresh. Find me on Fightcade. You can find me on Fightcade, basically the same name. I'm on there a lot. So
Or
Yeah,
Arturo
you-
Sanchez's Twitter about high refresh
Yep.
rates. Anything
yeah,
like
bro.
that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say
absolutely.
you can find me on Scott's Twitter. That's where I'll be.
For real.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all later. See ya.
All right, guys.
Right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.